please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to Business Lunch. I'm Sonia Shenoy and with me is Mangala Malu. Things have been quiet today. The frontliners have been sideways. The mid-caps are doing better. But you'd have to say after running long and hard for the last many days, some catching of breath is required, and that's what you're seeing in the markets today. The good part is the advance decline ratio is positive, more than 1,200 stocks on the advancing side. Hi, Mangala.
Absolutely, Sonia. You know, we're down but not out yet for the markets. Just a bit of a brief pause ahead of expiry. And it's interesting because, you know, the 10,700 call is seeing some bit of writing. The 10,700 call and put 11,000 is what I meant, 11,700. So used to saying 10,000 actually. 11,700 call is seeing a lot of writing. At the same time, we have the 11,700 put two together. They have 30 rupees in premium. So that's telling you 11,670 to 11,730 is where the range is. And that is where it is. Broad range remains 11,750 call seeing some selling, 11,650 put seeing some selling. That tells you that it is likely to be a range.
Well, you're not used to seeing 11,000, but you'll have to get used to perhaps seeing 12,000 very soon with the way the markets are headed.
It took what, just two series for the markets to cross about 11,000 from 10,000 to 11,000. So not too soon for us to get used to that.
Absolutely, new levels being conquered day after day. But let's move on, right? I mean, today the big talking point really is the rupee. It's been making headlines. The weakness in the rupee continues, and we've seen a record low 70.7. There was a massive slide in early morning trade, a bit of a recovery, and then a slide once again. Let's get in Lata Venkatesh now to understand the impact that all of this would have and the key reasons for the fresh lows. Lata.
Well, now we have reached a stage where we have to only look for reasons when it stops falling. It's falling on its own steam. It's like, Newton's law, a thing in motion continues in motion unless acted upon by an external force. It's like that. It's just sliding because its nature is to slide. There is the overall negativity. Trade deficit is higher, and today you can add a pinch of crude, $1 more expensive, and you have enough reasons. You must remember that the Indian currency was a victim, or you can say the beneficiary, of exceedingly long positions. Very strong view, very positive view on India from February to June, because crude prices fell from almost $80 to 72. That was the time when we, in the fourth quarter, literally troughed out. And from quarter one, corporate earnings just went through the roof. So the India picture brightened considerably at that time, leading to about, people speak about $40 billion of long positions on India in various ways. You buy CPs, you buy dollar, and with that you hold CPs. So in various ways, it was an India buy story. And now that's unwinding because they all thought 69 was protected. And suddenly you see 70, 50, they are unwinding in a hurry. At every level, there are sellers. Added to it, the equity guys, although it looks like, year to date, a fairly decent 8-9% rally, in dollar terms, it is actually only 1 or 2%. So they want to maintain those gains. They are buying hedges. That's also a buying pressure on the dollar. All this is the reason why it's sliding. So once it starts, it'll become kind of self-fulfilling. But to be fair, that external force is there in terms of trying to stop it. Reserve Bank, one would suspect it was Reserve Bank because public sector banks were supplying dollars at 70.84 or whatever the low was, and they continue to supply even at 70.74 even as we speak. People say that there are dollar offerings coming in from several state-owned banks. So they are trying, as the Reserve Bank always says, to smooth out volatility, but the inherent pressure to fall has not abated. I mean, don't expect that because the Reserve Bank is there, people are going to cover short positions on the rupee and it goes back to 70.25 or 70.40. No, the latent pressure is still to fall because there was this extraordinary accumulation of long positions, and that will find a way out. The only blessing today is that over the last 12-24 hours, we have not seen further worsening of those four horrible currencies. Lira, peso, real and rand have not done anything worse. So to that extent, the mood is not all that bad.
All right, the mood is not all that bad. Thanks a lot, Lata, for that. Also for the physics class, a thing that is in motion will continue to stay in motion until an external force is applied. Can we say the same for crude as well? Because if crude continues to stay in its motion, it will be difficult for our cars to move in motion then.
Oh, absolutely. And that would put the economy in a very different motion as well. But yes, with 1 month highs holding in case of the crude oil prices, that clearly is not a good news. And just to give you a sense on the price movement, we did see $71 in this month itself. So holding around 77.5 graph right now tells you that we have moved between $6 to $7 in the matter of 3 weeks itself. Not good news at all. But then the fundamentals have been on the stronger side. To begin with, IEA says that as we move to the fourth quarter of this calendar year, you will perhaps see the crude oil prices going higher from here on also, because it is a matter of supply tightness and the demand estimates are on the stronger side. Remember, OPEC is still cutting output, and you have seen the other Middle East countries like Venezuela, Nigeria, Iran, etc. still facing a lot of supply issues there. Apart from that, the US weekly inventories have been declining. That has been an added support. And the Iran sanctions will kick off from 4th of November. But even before that, we already have seen the Iran loadings and export actually come down considerably. So these are the factors that seem to be playing into the market. There is no short calls coming in for the crude oil prices. And as the prices have been moving higher, we are now hearing about those levels of $78 or $80 per barrel as well coming within this quarter itself.
Okay, $80 a barrel. That's going to send the economy completely out of whack, especially the fisc. But thanks so much, Manisha, for that. Moving on, let's get in some market opinion then. Madhav Dhar, the managing partner of GTI Capital Group, says that other than India and the US, there are few clearer growth opportunities in the world right now. Listen.
The S&P hit all-time highs, and everything else is getting dragged along with it. So the most important factor remains the US Fed and the US stock market, and particularly tech, and the narrowing of the global cycle in terms of leadership. The good thing about India is that it's starting to accelerate in the last year. And so even though there may be some global dampeners in terms of the Fed hiking, the US bull market being very old and extended, the Indian economy is finally starting to pick up and accelerate, and there is some movement on bad loans, and there's some progress there. There are fewer clear growth assets I see in the world than US equities and Indian equities. We are late in the game. Yes, valuations are extended even though earnings are rising both in India and the US. You're 10 years into a bull market in the US. The economy is extended. The Fed is starting to raise rates. Leadership is narrowing. And those tend to be late cycle, that's a late cycle phenomena. I think that what has worked, which is high quality private sector banks, or are at very expensive valuations, you know, tech, banking, credit in general has done fantastically. Everybody knows that's the big secular growth story in India, which I happen to believe, but it's done extremely well, everything from HDFC to Bajaj Finance and so on. And by temperament, I tend not to chase those things.
All right, so with that, we step to our first short break. Come back and we get you an excerpt of an exclusive conversation with the Minister of State for Aviation, Chen Sinha. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Well, the frontliners are lower in trade today by about 0.25% for the Nifty and the Sensex. Individual mid-caps, they're buzzing, and India Cements is one of them, up about 4% as we speak at the high point of trade. We also have some recovery coming in from a few of these mid-cap IT stocks. Hexaware, for instance, has recovered a goodish bit, about 1.5% from the low point of the day. And we have Wockhardt too. That one is suddenly spiked as we speak. But in what is one of India's biggest infrastructure deals, Reliance Infrastructure has agreed to sell its Mumbai distribution business to Adani Transmission. The total deal is valued at around that 19,000 odd crore rupees. Most of this money will be used to pay down Reliance Infra's debt. Hear out what the CEO Lalit Jalan had to say on the company's debt reduction plans.
See, the 7,500 crores of debt that we have got arbitration awards which we have already won. And these are, to the tune of 6,000 crores. Okay. There is another 8,000 crores of awards which are at various levels of approval. Then I have 5,000 crores of regulatory assets in Mumbai which are at advanced levels of approval. These claims, which belong to period prior to closing, will flow to Reliance Infrastructure as per the deal. So if you look at the entire packet, we have 6,000 crores of won arbitration awards, 5,000 of regulatory awards, and 8,000 of arbitration awards in process. So we've almost 20,000 crores of portfolio of liquidation of our stuck cash flows. Our Bombay distribution business was giving us a turnover of about 7,500 crores out of a total turnover of 28,000 crores. So this 7,500 goes away. Our EPC business in that 28,000 was just 1,300 crores. we expect that this 1,300 crores itself will become, say, it'll grow by 6,200 crores in 2 years itself. Okay. So just ENC growth will take care of loss of Mumbai in terms of turnover. The Bombay business was giving us EBITDA of 1,550 crores. Okay. But we have knocked off 14,000 crores of debt and liabilities. Yeah. So there'll be no reduction in profitability owing to the sale of our Mumbai business.
All right, well, the other stock reacting to news today is Greaves Cotton. It's trading over 7% higher after acquiring 67% stake in Ratan Tata-backed Ampere Vehicles for 77 crores and plans to buy another 13% stake over the next 3 years. Let's listen in to the rationale behind this purchase and what the management had to say.
Greaves Cotton is investing in Ampere, which has the technology, which has the platforms, which can provide affordable mobility solutions in the two-wheeler space. So it is on a scale-up mode, and then on year number 1, it's still not making money, but we expect it to break even at an EBITDA level in the relatively short order, in the 0 to 3 years. We are running on a clip of roughly about 60 crore for this year right now.
Okay, well, those were some of the buzzing stocks, but we're not done just yet. CESC is in focus and is trading with a 2% gain. Reports of Amazon investing Spencer's Retail. I think more than shoppers shopping, companies are shopping for other companies.
Absolutely. You said it, you know, Sonia. In fact, if you saw the newspapers over the last 3-4 days, you would know that if you're a retailer, Amazon is looking at you. Yeah. And if you're a retailer and Amazon is not looking at you, maybe something's wrong with you then. So Amazon, today's newspaper say they're in early stages and Amazon is not looking at you, maybe something's wrong with you then. So Amazon, today's newspaper say they're in early stages to invest in CESC-owned Spencer's Retail. And remember, Spencer's Retail FY18 revenues was close to around 2,100 odd crores. Analysts peg their FY20 revenues to be anywhere between 3,000 to 3,500 crores. So the valuation could be anywhere between 3,500 to 4,500 crores, given the price to sales multiple that one gives to it across the board. Amazon is looking at valuations right now. While we haven't independently verified this report, the important part is Future Retail. Just a couple of days ago, there were reports that Amazon will pick up stake in Future Retail. Add to that, there were other suitors for Future Retail as well. We had Google, which may tie up with Alibaba-backed Paytm Mall to pick up stake in Future Retail. But turns out Future Retail is not the only thing that analysts Amazon is looking at. They're looking at Spencer's. They're looking at more. They're looking at, they in fact invested in Shoppers Stop too. Yeah, okay, so Amazon has a bigger shopping basket than your cart on Amazon for sure. Let's see whether they pay or not. Right now they've added to cart. Okay, pay by cash on delivery perhaps. All right, well, moving on, even as Chanda Kochhar faces a probe in the Videocon loan case, her reappointment as a director and chairperson of ICICI Group subsidiaries ICICI Securities will be taken up by the shareholders of the company at their AGM today. Ritu Singh joins in to tell us what can be expected. Ritu, it's an important day for Chanda Kochhar and ICICI Bank and the shareholders as well.
Of course, and you know, it is very, very crucial because today the shareholders of ICICI Securities will actually vote to decide whether or not to reappoint Chanda Kochhar as a director and therefore as a chairperson of ICICI Securities, which is a group company of ICICI Bank. Now, you know, to make some things very clear, this is a regular reappointment. You know, directors retire by rotation and offer themselves for reappointment. So there is nothing unusual about this coming up. But what is important is that in ICICI Securities, ICICI Bank, that is the parent company, they hold about 79% stake and the public holds the remaining 20-odd% stake. So what ICICI Bank decides in this issue will actually play an important role, you know, because a resolution has to be passed by a simple majority. If only the parent company votes in favor of reappointing Chanda Kochhar, it will be a passed resolution. So that is something that is very crucial, whether or not the bank will vote in favor of Chanda Kochhar, should it or should it not. Now, so far the bank's stance has been, you know, whether it is Chanda Kochhar's position at the bank or at the subsidiaries, they have maintained a status quo despite, you know, Chanda Kochhar going on leave, an internal audit being conducted, external investigations ongoing. Chanda Kochhar remains the MD and CEO of ICICI Bank and on the board of various other subsidiaries. So if the bank chooses to maintain that status quo position, it may well vote in favor, but if it abstains from voting altogether, it will be left up to the public shareholders shareholders to decide her fate. Do remember there are advisory firms like IIAS that have advised shareholders to vote against this reappointment, and there are some other advisors like SES and ISS that have advised shareholders to vote for her. So the fate of Chanda Kochhar really now, depends on what is the outcome of this AGM.
That's ICICI Securities. Thanks a lot for that, Ritu. And in the meanwhile, just keep an eye out on ICICI Bank itself. That one's fallen about 1.5% from the high point of the day, taking the market lower. As we speak, the Nifty, the Sensex, the Nifty Bank, as well as the mid-cap index is at the low point of the day. So ICICI Bank is seeing a sharp decline. Along with that, we have Infosys too, which is lower in trade. Counterintuitive, given the rupee is at a record low. And we have L&T too slipping from the high point of the day. But a few days ago, a new Airbus A320 neo aircraft of budget carrier Indigo that was grounded due to engine issues. In an exclusive conversation with Shireen Bhan, the Minister of State for Aviation Jayant Sinha says there are no safety issues with the A320 neos, adds that the ministry is monitoring the situation very carefully.
There is no safety issue at all, Shireen, and you should be absolutely sure, as should the travelling public, that if there was even an iota of concern as far as safety is concerned, we would have grounded all those engines, and we have done that in the past as well. Remember that all of these planes can fly very easily with one engine. So even if we have problem with one engine, we can continue to obviously operate with the second engine as well. But it's not ever come to that, because we are doing very, very preemptive inspections. We are looking at these jet engines very carefully. If we think that there's any risk of any snag in the engine or any problems with the engine, we get the engine to be taken off the aircraft, and either the aircraft gets grounded till a second engine comes in or a new engine is put in. So we are monitoring the situation very, very carefully. We have taken corrective action in advance of what other regulators have done, but this is a problem that we are monitoring very, very carefully right now, and of course we are working closely with the equipment manufacturers as well as with the airlines.
Okay, well, that's the word coming in from Jayant Sinha. We'll take a break on that note. Coming up on the other side, the two-day BIMSTEC summit kicks off in Nepal. We'll get you more on that when we return.